What do you think, Brenda? Hat or no hat? She's like, I don't know. It looks weird. Yeah, it does kind of look weird. So, no hat. At least for now. That'll come back later. Um, okay, I don't really pay that much attention to sports. I have 3 baseball caps, none of which are for an actual team of any kind. This just says Angel. I have another one that's from an airboat ride in Florida, or in New Orleans, and then I have another one that just says Cowgirl on it. And I may have like a Harry Potter one as well somewhere, and I have a Gengar one back there. So I have like 5 maybe, but it's just like, I don't wear them. They're props at this point in time, or memorabilia from stuff. But there's a baseball reference later on in this video, and even though I don't pay that much attention to sports in general, this is March Madness month. It is March, and both of the Nebraska basketball teams, for the women's and the men's state basketball teams, are doing pretty good this year, so I'm at least happy about that. But into the chapter, into this, much later than normal, just because it took a while for the chapter to come out. So One Piece is on the cover of Shonen Jump this week, and it's this really cool, it's the big 3. It's the monster trio, or the original monster trio, with Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. And Luffy and Sanji both have like, not revolvers, but have like flintlock pistols, and Luffy's got like a cool pirate hat on top of his straw hat, which is on top of a bandana. Zoro, we see the Watto on Zoro's shoulder and everything, so that looks pretty cool there. And then we have the cover art for the chapter, which I really like, which is kind of a little bit, it kind of has like the feeling of what could have been vibes, because it's all of the Straw Hats, plus Bonnie and Kuma, and for some reason, and Vegapunk is in it as well. So it's like this kind of a happy thing of like what could have been in a better world where all this crap doesn't happen with the world government. This is just a better world, and just these guys get to hang out. And I just love this setup because it's all the Straw Hats along with Bonnie, Kuma, and Vegapunk. All like there's a bunch of jellyfish around them, and they're all of them are just all gorging themselves on French fries. Which is just adorable. And this made me think to the video that's going up next week for the rulers and leaders thing is about the different islands in Totland, and it made me think of Potato Island, which is governed by Snack, the Minister of Fries, and it made me think of that because I'm like, I was doing research and that was there. But I love this. Is like all the different Straw Hats are just like gorging themselves on a whole bunch of French fries, which just sounds awesome. And they're like floating in jellyfish, and like Kuma's there, and he's got like this nice, orange vest or orange jacket thing, and he just looks happy. And like Vegapunk's in like a little mini submarine thing, and he's gorging on food, and like little child Bonnie is being happy with like Chopper and Nami, which makes perfect sense because like the second Nami ever finds out that Bonnie is actually a 12-year-old, Nami is going to go into big sister of protective big sister mode of Bonnie, and I think Robin would as well. Whenever that gets fully revealed to the crew. So I love that, and it just looks gorgeous, and it's just like this little happy concept of like this could have been had the world government not just had the Gorosei not been what they are, this could have happened where like just all the Straw Hats along with Vegapunk and Bonnie and Kuma could have just had like this nice big dinner of all these French fries and just had fun. And it like calls back to like the in Bonnie and Kuma's flashback that we got when it was Bonnie and Kuma and Kizaru and Vegapunk and Sentomaru all eating the pizza on, Egghead while it's being built, and Bonnie and Kuma are being treated. Well, Bonnie's being treated and Kuma's being modified. Well, all of that's going on. So it's kind of like a callback to that, I think, too. Just like, because it's like Bonnie loves to eat, and so does Luffy, and the rest of the crew loves to eat, too. So I just love that. That's just great. But going into the actual chapter for 11:11, 1111 or 1111, depending on however many ways you want to put that. The title of the chapter is The Sun's Shield, which is a cool chapter name. So we start off with this outside image of the fabrications or the labosphere and Mars. No, not Mars. Oh frick, who was the one that turned into the Itsumade? No, it was Mars that turned into the Itsumade. It's Saturn. It's a Jupiter who is the worm. I think. No, wait. I got those mixed up. It is Jupiter that turns into the worm, and it's Marcus Mars who turns into the Itsumade. Okay, so I think that's correct. Those two, I'm like, okay, which one was which? But Gorosei, Itsumade, giant evil bird, has made its way, managed to bust through the laser, grid protection sphere that is around the fabrication, the labo phase, and makes his way inside, and he's making his way toward where Zoro and Lucci are fighting. Jinbei sees this, starts running faster, or flying faster to get to where Zoro is. And he's like, what in the world? He's just feeling all the hockey coming off of the Itsumade, off of Marcus Mars. And in all honesty, Marcus Mars probably had to use a fair amount of hockey to bust through that laser grid, so that at least hopefully is good. In the anime, they might add in an extra scene or two of him ramming it, but probably not that much, just to build tension. But it doesn't look like he sustained really any damage from it, because even when we see him, he doesn't really look like he's injured or smoking at all from charred from going through the laser grid. And Jinbei is just this hockey is unreal for this amount of hockey and level of hockey, Conqueror's hockey. I think this pretty much confirms that all 5 of the Gorosei probably have Conqueror's hockey. And of all the other celestial dragons that we've probably interacted with, I mean, Shanks has it, but he's, well, by a technicality, he's a celestial dragon, but not quite the same way. I wouldn't be surprised if they have Garling, Figureland have it later when we get more interaction with him, but the Gorosei having it is not surprising, and we get a confirmation that another one at least has it in a little bit. So Jinbei is just making his way to Zoro, and he's like, come on, Zoro, the fight's over, we gotta move. And Zoro's just like, wait, what, huh? Looking at Jinbei, he's like, no, I can't go yet, he's still standing. And Lucci, to his credit, is still standing there, bloodied, with gashes, 3 gashes going, looks like, down his chest, and then across his arms from where Zoro would have hit him. And then he's bleeding from his mouth, and he's Lucci sustained a lot of damage already with that last attack from Zoro with the leopard hunt. And Lucci is growling, and Jinbei, or Sanji, pops up on the intercom to Jinbei. He's just like, Jinbei, have you got him yet? It's like, come on, we gotta go. I am so used to this method when it comes to trying to get my nieces and nephew, and it's like, okay, come on, we have to go now. We have places we have to be, which will be something I will be having to be doing tomorrow, because we're going to a baby shower, not a baby shower, a wedding shower, and we gotta drive 2 hours to get to it. I have a cousin that's getting married. It's for his fiance. But they're just like, okay, God. And Jinbei's just like, I'm on it. And he grabs Zoro. He grabs Zoro around the neck and just was like, come on, you're coming with me now. And I was like, come on, Zoro. You've already won. And Zoro's like, grr. And Jinbei's like, looks over at Lucci. And Lucci's starting to get up to go after them. And he's just like, sorry about this, Rob Lucci. Fishman, 5,000 brick fist. And Jinbei just, attacks Lucci with that, which is, it's not this, we've seen him use 5,000 brick fist multiple times throughout the story. It's kind of like Jinbei's signature kind of opening move to test his target, to test his opponent, and it hits Lucci. And it hits Lucci enough that he goes out of his hybrid form, because he was in his awakened hybrid form for the majority of the fight with Luffy, or with Zoro. We also don't know exactly when Lucci would have awakened his form, so he may have had an awakened devil fruit longer than Luffy has, so he may have had more practice with it, with staying in his awakened form, as opposed to Luffy, who really hasn't had it that long, or hasn't quite realized, maybe, that it's awakened. We'll see. But Lucci is just kind of like almost knocked out, and then Marcus Mars shows up just over him in the giant Itsumade form, and that would just be one of those moments where it's just like, I have no idea what is going on here. Who the are you? And that's like the look on Lucci's face is also like, oh good God, I'm gonna die. Is like the look on Lucci's face as he's looking up at Mars. And Mars is like, Rob Lucci of Cypher Pole Aegis Zero. Where is York? For Lucci's credit, he doesn't seem to miss a beat here in figuring out, okay, this is something that I should definitely listen to, because with as injured as I am anyway from fighting those two, I am in no position to try to fight this thing, so I'm just gonna go along with whatever it says. Which, by a technicality, if I was in his position, I would probably be doing the same thing. So I can't blame him. And Zoro is actually like running on top of Jinbei as Jinbei is like flying away with the Dom shoes. He's like, we have to hurry. And Zoro is just like, what is that thing? I'm like, good question, Zoro. You're gonna find out later. But for now, just go with the fish man. He'll take you where you need to go right now. And Lucci, kind of without missing a beat, is just like, she's still tied up at the control room. It's on the 5th floor of Building A. And we cut to where he has the little black Dentenmushi that's used for, like, wiretapping. He has that, which we saw him have that earlier, I think. And he's like, the two that were just here, Roronoa and Jinbei, the Knight of the Sea. There are 5 more Straw Hats up here and 2 Vegapunks. And he's huffing and puffing from like having to just do this fight. Now he's like, okay, I have to report to the boss. He has no idea that this is a Gorosei, though. He can just like feel the hockey coming off of it probably, and just like, I'm not gonna argue with the giant creepy looking lizard bird. Is like what would go through my head. And he's like, they're preparing to escape from the back entrance of the Labo Stratum. Also, there are 85 Cypher Pole agents and 4 Seraphim imprisoned in the basement, and we have 6 minutes before Vegapunk's message. I guess Lucci did enough to impress a Gorosei, because he's like, splendid work. I have no further queries. It's like, you gave me all the information I need. Even if you die here, I will give you a bit of, praise in this regard. It's like the Gorosei probably don't hand out praise all that much, but he's like, okay, I'll give you praise for this. I mean, I know in Film Red we saw Lucci interacting with the Gorosei, but I mean, like, that interaction isn't canon, because like Film Red itself, the events that happen in it are not canon. Uta is canon, the film is not. Uta is canon, and her being Shanks' daughter is canon, but the movie itself is not, as has gone over a lot. But, I mean, in that way, Lucci has interacted with the Gorosei, but, like, we haven't seen any canon interactions where he himself has interacted with the Gorosei. So I don't know how much contact the Gorosei have with the Cypher Pole, particularly Aegis Zero. Probably a lot more than like the regular Cypher Pole do. Like before Lucci became Cypher Pole Zero, he was on the run, and then before that he was 9, but you get the idea. And like, I would just not want to argue with the giant evil looking bird. And Mars starts to fly off, and Lucci's like, one last thing. My partner should be in the control room. He was badly injured. And okay, Lucci is getting credit for this. I mean, okay, we get to see a little bit of like this loyalty here that Lucci has toward Kaku, and I like that. Because he's like, please find a way to spare him. It's like, Lucci is here, probably, like, he doesn't know what this bird thing is. He just wants to try to not have Kaku be injured any more than Kaku has already been injured, probably in a fight with the Seraphim in York in the previous night. Lucci is also not aware that Kaku is stuck in a bubble right now, because the last time he saw Lucci, he was bandaged up and laying on a table, not trapped in a bubble. And so Lucci at least is getting credit here for wanting to try to protect Kaku, or try to have Kaku be spared, because that is like this callback to the whole CP9 independent report cover series that they did, where we saw all of, CP9 helping each other and working with each other to be able to pay for medical aid for Lucci after everything that happened at Enies Lobby. And like we get to see kind of that payoff a little bit here with like this loyalty that Lucci is showing toward Kaku. And to a degree, if like Caliphate was on the island, or if any of the other members that were originally part of Cypher Pool 9 are now members of CPH's, Cypher Pool 0, Lucci might be showing that same type of like wanting to make sure that they were okay. Also, Lucci spent a lot of time with Kaku during the time frame when they were undercover at, Water 7, so that's there as well. Plus, I think it's shown that like the two of them kind of grew up together a little bit, so there's like that there. Stussy is different. Stussy is not like one of his longtime companions, friends, acquaintances, whatever you want to call them. Also, she betrayed Lucci because she's like, okay, I'm going to put the giraffe to sleep, and then I'm going to put you to sleep with my weird bat powers and sea stone lipstick, or whatever the heck I have, type of a thing. So that's different. He doesn't care about Stussy, although okay, we do get to see Mars talk to York in a few minutes, but I don't remember if we look better at the panel, but I don't know if we saw Lucci in the panel at all. But Mars is just like, that might not be possible. It is hard to single out a lone insect when you're exterminating the hive. I mean, we are well aware of the fact that the Gorosei look at like 99.99999 infinity version percent of the world as nothing but insects. And the Gorosei probably look at a good chunk of the celestial dragons in that same sense of like, they are literally this thing that we can use in order to whatever we decide to use the celestial dragons for. The God's Knights maybe not quite as much, depending on like how much the God's Knights have proven themselves, but we haven't really seen the Gorosei interact with like figurines yet, so we don't know where that falls. But like, the Gorosei see most of the people below them, including the admirals and the marines, as just insects that are there for their own amusement. It's like some they might find a little bit more fondness for than others, or like they have more of a use, like the admirals have more uses than the vice admirals, and they have more uses than the rear, and all the way down to the lowest ranked marine that there is. They have different values to the Gorosei, but it's not a huge amount of like, they can all be replaced if they end up dying, it's fine, we don't really care as long as we still have the world in our clutches at the end of the day. And that's basically what Marcus Mars is saying here, is like, oh well, I may not care that much if I do find your friend there or not. If I destroy the building, that's entirely up to me, and if I kill all the insects inside, then so be it. And it's just like, yeah, that's like, how do you expect me to distinguish one ant from another? In that regard. And I mean, Saturn had similar views earlier. And so we cut from where Mars is flying off toward the main lab where York is tied up right now, back down to the main part of the island or the bottom part of the island where Dory and Proggy are talking with Luffy over the decapitated corpse of Jupiter, over the worm. And Luffy's just like so happy. He's like, giant old timers, it's really you, because he's just so happy to see them. I love that. And he's like, it's been over 2 years. And as I've stated before, I don't remember which one's Dory and which one's Broggy. I'm sorry. One of it's just like, Straw Hat, we hardly recognize you. And the other one is just like laughing, and they're like, yeah, they tell tales about this god on Elbath. Where did you learn about how he looked? So this is implying that maybe they are just like they've kind of figured out that Luffy does have this connection because of the poster to Nika, but maybe they haven't quite figured out the fact that this is because of Luffy's devil fruit that he looks like Nika. Because they haven't seen Luffy in person for a while, so we'll see what happens here. And then he's just like, hmm? And it's just like, your appearance. It's a pleasant surprise. And they're really happy about it. And Luffy's laughing. He's just like, I don't get it, but we can talk later. And Luffy's just like really happy to see Dory and Broggy, as are the rest of us. So I love that. And we cut to Top Man, who is still a giant pig and didn't do anything last chapter. Is just going to do something kind of cool here in a minute. And they're just like, giants? And Saturn is just like, a most unpalatable complication. And Dory and Broggy are looking at Saturn and Top Man, and they're just like, what enormous beast. It feels like we're back in the jungles of Elbath. And I love this comment because we know, because of Big Mom's backstory, that like there are giant bears and giant wolves that live on Elbath. So it's like, of course there would be like giant other things that live on Elbath. I personally would not want to run into a giant spider because I would have a freaking heart attack. I don't like spiders that are this big. Why the heck would I want to run into something bigger than my house? In that regard, it's like, if I ever for some reason was on Elbeth, I'm just like, I am going to befriend the giants and pray to God that they will be nice to me and keep me safe. It's like, I won't eat much food. I can tell you fun stories, just please don't hurt me. I don't think the giants would have much to do against me, but you get the idea. And Luffy's like, old timers, we're not meant to fight right now. We're supposed to run away. So I love the fact that Luffy's like, yeah, giant beast. Yeah, I know. No, we're supposed to leave right now. I've been trying to buy time, is kind of what Luffy's doing. And they're like, yeah, we know. Sanji told us when we bumped into him earlier. So we're getting this little bit where we cut back to probably like just a couple of minutes prior in this regard from Dory and Broggy's perspective. And they're like, yeah, when you see Luffy, tell him we're meeting up at the other end of the island. So like, because Luffy hasn't been able to hear the whole message of like where the Straw Hats are going to meet up, where they're supposed to be going and everything like that. And we know that like Bonnie and Frankie and their group, kind of ran into Dory and Broggy and are being taken to where the ship is, and we'll see them in a little bit. And we're going to have a map here in a second that kind of shows where everybody is. It's kind of reminiscent of like the different floor maps that we would get like in Wano for like where everybody was, or in Totland when they had the different like location maps for where everybody was. When they were running around Totland and Whole Cake Island and everything, because those were very useful to remember where everybody's locations were. So they have this little flashback within this little bit where they're talking to, where they ran into Sanji, who they recognize because Sanji knows them because he met them. Frankie didn't recognize them because he didn't meet them on Little Garden because he wasn't part of the crew on Little Garden. But, they believe that Frankie is part of their group and everything, so they're fine with that. Sanji is one of the ones that they know. And even though Sanji didn't interact with them as much as like Zoro and the others, Luffy and Usopp and such did, but Sanji still met them, so he recognizes them. And he tells them, yeah, just like go find Luffy, he's that way, I'm gonna go this way. And they're like, yeah, go that way, you'll find our ship, and blah blah blah. And they're just like, yeah, I got it, see ya. And Sanji's just running off. So then we have the map. And I like the map, so it's like we get this like, little miniaturized view of Egghead. And at the top of it, we still have Nami and Usopp's group, which includes Brooke, Chopper, Lilith, Robin, Edison, I think I said Edison, possibly Stussy, because we don't know where Stussy is right now. So it might include Stussy as well, we just may not have seen her. So them with the Sunny in the Labosphere, which has now just been, attacked by Marcus Mars, and they're hopefully going to be able to jump down and get to where the giant ship is, because like they can see where the giant ship is, so they're like, okay, let's get to the giant ship. And then around the island we see like all the ships that are from, all the marine vessels, and then we see the giant ship, which is just huge. And then we see where like the battle is with Luffy's group, which is Luffy, Dory, and Broggy fighting against Top Man, Saturn, and Jupiter. And then we see Sanji, who has Vegapunk, and the Vegapunk doodle has eyes crossed out, so that's supposed to be Vegapunk's dead, is heading toward where the ship is. And then we have Bonnie and Frankie's group, which is Bonnie, Frankie, Atlas, in PX0 Kuma. So the Kuma's body at this point in time, since he's kind of like going in and out of whatever amount of usefulness he has, is getting taken to the ship, and there with some of the other giants. And then we know that around the island there's a bunch of the different giants that are attacking the other marine vessels that are there, to cause more distraction and to prevent them from causing more harm to the island. So that's what they're doing. That's like what Oimo and Kashi are doing, and we'll see them in a minute. But they're making their way to the Elbas ship because that's where everybody's goal is to get to. And so I like that little design there that they have. So we cut back to where there is they're ready, and one of them, again, I can't tell if it's Dory or Bragi. I am sorry, I can't tell which one's which. I can never remember which one's which. And one of them pulls out a horn, so like, you know, like the summoning horn or whatever, the horn of calling dragons or whatever it was from Yu-Gi-Oh. Just like, the report said the Navy was surrounding you after all. And they're like, yeah, we decided to help you escape after we saw the news, about them surrounding the island. Which I like the fact that it's like, by Dory and Bragi's perspective, they would have been on Elbath just like a couple of hours ago, with Shanks dealing with Kid, which did not take very long. And now they're like, okay, they got the news, read the paper about like the siege on Egghead, and they're like, we're gonna go help Straw Hat because we're within range and we can help him. So that's where they went, and they headed to Elbat, or they headed to Egghead, which might be close enough that maybe there's like enough of a log pose set up that they can get there easily enough, so that's not maybe an issue. Or maybe they have like an eternal pose to Egghead because of having Saul there, that Saul and Vegapunk may have like an eternal pose to Egghead that, Saul has, or whatever the case may be. And they blow the horn, which is, sends out this huge sound all across the island, which is to let all the other giants know that, like, okay, they've got Luffy and everybody needs to start heading back to the ship. And everybody is just like, okay, let's keep going. And, so it booms out around, and we see like the head, part of torso, or part of neck and rest of neck of Jupiter on the ground around Dory and Bragi and Luffy. And the other giants are just like, yeah, that's the signal from the captains. They found Straw Hat. Head to the ship. We're getting out of here. And we see Oimo and Kashi on one of the marine ships that they've been like destroying, and they're just like, rescuing them was our only goal. It's not like warships have treasure or loot anyway. Yeah, you're not wrong. And they're just laughing, and like the Marines on the ships are just like, oh good lord damn it, we are so dead. Or like, this is not good. And then we cut to Top Man doing something pretty cool that's like a lot different than what we've seen some of the other ones do so far. Saturn blew up a guy's head, and I think it has been shown that Saturn has Conqueror's Hockey as well, and that might be part of like the being able to blow up people's heads thing. Instead of just making them faint, you blow up their head, type of thing. But we see Top Man, and he's like, they're signaling a retreat. That won't do. Allow me to blow a horn of my own. And he's like, I'll drive home the futility of escape. And he like takes in this huge breath, and then he releases this huge Conqueror's Hockey infused roar that just reverberates over Dory and Bragi and Luffy, and like Dory and Bragi are like holding up their shields, and like it's blasting over the part of the island that's like behind them and everything, so it's just causing so much problem, huge blast coming their way. And we get this funny panel of Luffy getting hit with the blast. And I love this panel. It is Luffy getting hit with the blast, and he says he's still in Nika form. It goes into cartoon mode, where his eyes, his scar from his cheek, his X on his chest, the scar on his chest, his hat, his shoes, and like the ring of fur that's around like the bottom of his shorts get blown off of him behind him. Along with like some other, I don't know, there's like some other movement things going on, and like his hair is kind of being blown back. So I'm just like, and one of the giants like, this is happening in further, and they're like, what the heck is going on? As Luffy's like, stuff is getting blown off of him. I'm like, I love that. I still want Luffy to tie the Gorosei up into a giant knot and throw him somewhere, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. I still want that. There's a freaking worm there. Tie the worm around the other two and throw them into the ocean. They may not drown, but at least get them out of the way. Um, um, and Luffy's just like, ah, as this is happening. And like, we get the cut to like the outside setup of the island where we see like this huge blast of the Conqueror's Haki just like zooming over a ton of the different marine vessels that are there. And they're like, the island's going crazy again. And like a bunch of the marines are fainting. Hopefully not dying, hopefully just fainting. Doesn't look like they got X's for eyes, so I think they're just fainting. From the impact of this amount of Conqueror's Haki coming their way. So that happens. Cut back to Dorian, Broggy, and Luffy, and they're like trying to, like one of them put their hand behind Luffy so he doesn't get like blown away by the Conqueror's Haki blast. And they're just like, "You good, Straw Hat?" And it's just like, "You held on, your body's so funky." It was like, "You held on, your body's so funky." And that funky may not be the exact word that gets left in translation here when it gets translated into the official translation, but I like that it's funky. It's probably going to be like weird or something like that, but they're just finding this so funny. And we get to Luffy, he's like pacing his X scar back on his chest, and he's holding the scar that's from under his eye. From first chapter Scar, like in his hand. It's like just like okay, got that. Okay, that one's back in place. Now I gotta get this one back in place. I love that. It's like the jokes in like Looney Tunes stuff where like, I was trying to remember if there's ever a moment in like any of the Looney Tunes stuff where there's like a dog that has spots, they get blown off and then they have to like paste the spots back on the dog or something. I don't remember, but like I love that concept. Like just like all the color getting blown off of someone and they have to go back over and like paste it back on into the right spot for the cartoon logic of that. I love that. Luffy's like, that was close. And like, I'm sorry, I love that. That made me so happy. That made me so happy when I saw it. I'm sorry. We go back to Top Man, who's like still in his war pig form, and he's like, a Conqueror's Haki roar? Or Luffy's like, a Conqueror's Haki roar? Who are these guys? Or I think that's Dorian Broggy talking, and then Luffy's like, some government big shot. I'm like, you're not wrong, Luffy. You are technically not wrong, so you get points for that. And Warcurie just starts spinning, and jumps at Dorian Broggy and Luffy, and his tusks, two of his tusks, like turn into blades. Now, whether or not this is something to do with like coating the tusks and like turning them into blades and that type of thing, or this is something to do with like the power of like the Hoki that he turns into, that like, I don't know if there's any myths that talk about the Hokis having like blades for tusks or something like that. I mean, that would be kind of cool. But turning them into blades, and then he tries to slam them down on the Dorian Broggy, and they both hold up their shields at the exact right moment to block him, and it's called Sun Shield Flan, I think. I probably butchered that name. I know that it's a reference to a Norse goddess, I think, who has like a shield that she uses to protect the earth from the heat of the sun, type of a thing, is like what's being shown here, is like what that's referencing. So it's like, it's a sun shield. I love that. And it's like, it's a sun shield, which is definitely a Nika reference, which is funny because they're using it to defend Luffy, to shield Luffy, who is the sun god, from this attack from this Gorosei. So I love that. That's just great. And Top Man is just like, what quest of destiny ties you together? Do you have any idea who that man is? And they're like, of course, he's our buddy. And I love the fact that it's like, it's not because he looks like Nika or anything like that. They are there to help Luffy because Luffy is their friend, because of everything that happened on Little Garden, and knowing like how Luffy's crew helped Joimo and Kashi and everything, that that is why they're there, that Luffy is their friend. And I love that. And like Dory and Broggy are both laughing as they're like blocking the attack from the war pig. And then they like at the same time like push him forward and send him flying back with Split Skydle. Skylda. I don't know, I probably butchered that again. Send Top Man flying. And they're just like, send him flying, and splashes, lands into the ground right next to where Saturn is. And Saturn's like, okay, that's where you stand? Then we'll just have to erase you from world history along with him. And Saturn like takes in a breath, and then he starts, because Saturn has poison powers, he starts spitting out venom or poison, like balls, like spitballs at Dory and Broggy and Luffy. And Luffy's like, that's venom, watch out. And he like, I love this. I love that Scar's getting blown off of Luffy. I think this is my second, that was I think my second favorite thing. This I love too, in this chapter. And Luffy just like grabs one of the palm trees, and then like he basically like, shapes it like how like wood carvers will like spin the wood, and then they can like carve it into the right shape, and it'll be like a uniform shape all the way around from spinning, like through his teeth, turns it into a baseball bat, takes out a paintbrush, paints the bat with what's supposed to be a reference to hockey, I'm sure, and there's a 5-6 on it because Gamu, of course, Luffy's number is 5-6, is part of Luffy's number scheme, and he like paints the bat. And I know that this is so funny. I love this. And then he like pulls out a baseball cap out of nowhere, puts it on, that has 5-6 on it again, and then he like winds up for the pulls back for the pitch, and then bang, just like bangs all of the different little venom balls that are coming his way back towards Saturn and Mercury, and I love that. And Luffy's just laughing so hard, and he's just like, have a taste of your own medicine, as it gets flown back at the other three, and that's at them. And Luffy's just laughing his head off, and Saturn and Mercury did not see this coming, because they look very surprised as like the venom starts flying at them, and then it starts exploding, which is even funnier because now they've just been hit by their own attack that way. And Luffy's just like, oh my god, they explode. He was not expecting that. And like, it's like the eyes popping out of his head again, and his tongue going wavy and everything like that, as we've seen happen with him multiple times. I love that. And we cut to Dory and Broggy again, and one of their two of their like subordinates are like, captains, the flames will block out the forest. We'll block off the forest. And like, all right, well, let's go. And they're like, and one of them is, or Dory or Broggy again, sorry, they're like, they're gone though. And Luffy's like, no, we have to hurry, these guys can't die. And like they start running, and like we cut back to where like the flames are from the explosions that just happened, and we see Saturn's silhouette and Mercury's silhouette, and we see Jupiter's silhouette as well. He's healed up. His sandworm form has healed up, and they're like in the smoke and haze of the fire, so they're not down. And Dory and Broggy are just like running with like Luffy behind them, as like Luffy's like flying. So like Luffy's probably gonna run out of steam soon, but we've also been saying that for a little while now. But I would love it if there's like part of the idea that like Luffy's powers can kind of be like, I know part of it is based on his own stamina and everything, but I would like it if there was like some setup where it's like part of Luffy's powers as Nika can be drawn on by the amount of joy that is around him. And like Dory and Broggy are like really happy to see Luffy, and Luffy's happy to see them and everything, and even like Sanji would be happy to see them, and like Usopp and Nami are up on the up, and they're happy to see Dory and Broggy and such as well. So it's like this bit of happiness there, so that might be part of it. I don't know, that would make sense in my opinion. But they're all running, and they're like, then let's get a move on. Are they really immortal? And Luffy's like, no idea, but no matter what I do, they keep coming back. And they're like, I've never heard of any race or ability granting that kind of power. They're like, well, we may be running, but I still count this as a victory. And they're laughing about that as they're running through the forest. And we cut to where where Nami's group is still on top of the Labos phase, where Nami is talking over the intercom speaker or the headset to Jinbei Zoro, to Jinbei and Zoro, and telling them to hurry, and they need to get to where Nami's group is, and they're like, we're on their way, and it's just like, it's faster to just run normally. So like, I think Zoro is still like riding on Jinbei's back, and Jinbei's just like, yeah, screw it, I'm gonna run instead, and they're running because they're still inside the Labo phase. And then we cut to the shore where we see Bonnie's group has arrived at the shore, and they're like, in front of the ship, look. And we see, so it was Vice Admiral Red King, Vice Admiral Guillotine, and Vice Admiral Pomsky, I think were the names of these guys. Red King and Guillotine, I remember, and I think Pomsky was the other one. So we see them, and they're there, and they're like, you're not going anywhere, Jewelry Bonnie. So they're there to fight. Thankfully, Sanji seems to also be getting to that area as well. Now, admittedly, the giant, Bonnie's group have several giants with them, and Frankie could probably still put up a good bit of a fight against the Vice Admiral. And Bonnie, it's like, if we get to see Bonnie do anything against the admirals, that would be, or against the Vice Admirals, because it would be her fighting, getting to see her fight again for the first time, that she has realized that Nika is Luffy, or that Luffy has the power of Nika, and that's like, can reaffirm her face. So I hope that happens soon. Then we cut up to the Labo phase, back to Labo phase, where we see that Mars has made his way to the lab where York is tied up on the ground still. And he's like, where's the room displayed on the monitor? And she's just like, ah, a monster! It's just like, it spoke. Who are you? Leave me be! So it's just like, York, you're the one who wanted the Gorosei to save you, and we're begging them over the mic earlier. Now you're terrified of one of them. Not that I blame you in that regard at all. So she's terrified. We don't really get to see anything else of the room. There's like a monitor in the back area that's like all destroyed, so there's not much there. We don't see Kaku. We don't see Stussy. So we don't see anything there. It's just York having a panic attack. Not that I blame her. And then we cut back to one of the ships, the ship where Kizaru got thrown into a little bit ago, when him and Saturn got turned into symbols and then frisbees. They're like, some of the others are like, Kizaru-san, are you hurt? Let us treat you. And he's just like laying there with his hand over his eyes. He's just like, my wounds run deep. Just let me rest already. And they're like, we should attend to them right away. And then we get another message coming in over the comms, and it's just like, come in. And we cut to the last set of the chapter, the last images of the chapter, and we see the ancient giant soldier is now moving around in not the junkyard area. Bear in mind, I don't remember if we got the whole answer as to like where the junkyard was in association with the rest of the island. Like, it's in the fabrication area. It's in the lower area of the island, but it's not. I don't remember if we got an exact answer of like where it's located on the map of the island. So it's up and it's moving, and it's the Marine shouting. It's like, come in. Something way bigger than a giant just showed up on the northwest coast, on the northwest shore, and it's just like creak, thud, thud. It's like the flames aren't even phasing it. Just like, it's like a titan in the middle of an inferno, and it seems to be growling something. And we get a more up-close picture of the giant's face, of the giant soldier's face, and it's like, inside of it, probably like its internal monologue, because it's like speech pattern or speech set may not be working anymore. But internally, it's thinking, forgive me, Joy Boy. And the editor's note is, an apology? For what? So, yes, I'm aware of the fact that One Piece is going to be going on a 3-week break, so next 3 weeks we won't have any One Piece chapters, but I'll still be doing my Royals and Rulers video, and I've got a couple of other stuff ready for like a couple of the Black Clover videos, and I think I will be doing the review for Disney's Wish, so we'll see how that lines up with everything else. Since I can finally work on getting that one done in the next couple of weeks, and we'll go from there with whatever else I have room to do for stuff, since I am still job hunting at the moment. But I love the fact that it's like, okay, Dory and Bragi and Luffy are hopefully going to be able to get to where the others are. Sanji is in the area where the Vice Admirals are that are messing with Bonnie's group and Bonnie and Frankie's group. That can hopefully be dealt with rather easily. As far as we're aware, none of these guys seem to have devil fruit powers, so we'll see if that's something that can be dealt with fairly quickly. We'll see. Not that you have to have devil fruit powers to be strong as a Marine. We saw that, like, we don't know if Doll has a devil fruit power, but like Garp doesn't, and a good chunk of the other ones that we've seen do not have devil fruit powers to our knowledge. So we'll see what happens there, and they're pretty strong too for a bunch of the Vice Admirals like Momonga and Strawberry and Stainless and everything. But we'll see what happens. Clearly, it's like if Mars talks to York and it's just like I'm one of the Gorosei, tell me where the freaking control room is, or tell me where that room is where the recording is, and we'll see what happens with that. But it's like, where's the room displayed on the monitor? It's like the room displayed on the monitor isn't necessarily where the signal is coming from. The signal is the message has already been recorded, and it's going to be played. So we'll see what happens with that. Nami's group has to get off the top of the Labo phase before it can be, before the Itsumare shows up and tries to attack them. Zoro and Jinbei are there, so they might be able to form some type of defense against them. And I know a lot of people really want this to be that, like, the Straw Hats get all separated again. I would like it. I don't really want the Straw Hats to get separated again in this regard, because we kind of had that. We had that where they all got separated at Saba Odi and everything, and it was Luffy on his own for Amazon Lily and Impel Down and Marineford and post Marineford and everything like that. And not that just Luffy is bad, but like, it wasn't, everyone wasn't all there. And then we had the 2-year time skip, and then almost as soon as we get into the new world, we have Punk Hazard, and then as soon as we get to Dressrosa, that's when they get split up again. And Luffy and the crew, his group are in Dressrosa for their section, and then like Nami and Sanji's group are in Zou for a little while there. And then even when Luffy and his group from Dressrosa got back to Zou and found the rest of the crew, Sanji wasn't there, so then they had to split up again. And Luffy's group went to Whole Cake to save Sanji and go through all of that. And then even by the end of that, Jinbei had technically joined the crew, but he wasn't with the crew yet. And then they had to get back to Wano. And it's just like, okay, can we have an adventure here that doesn't involve them all getting split up again at the end of this? So it's not a pre-decided thing by the crew. So we'll see what happens there. But I like the idea of hopefully Bonnie maybe tapping into her powers again and having like her faith from Nico restored, and being able to go against the Vice Admirals that are there, and maybe knock some power, use her power on them. In regards to Mars being in the Fabosphere, or the Labo phase with like Luffy, Nami's group that has Robin there, we know that Robin probably got hurt fighting against the Seraphim trying to stop York the previous night. So that's probably something that we may not ever get a full description of, but it might be something that maybe gets a little more expanded upon in the anime or something, based on if Oda gives off any notes or anything like that to the anime. But Robin is there, and while she may be somewhat sedated, she may be able to push through that, and it would be interesting to see her use her Fleur Demonio form to make herself huge again, grab a Gorosei by the neck, and just spin it around and then throw it away. That would be fun. Slam him into the Labo phase wall again. They themselves have to get through the Labo phase wall again anyway to get out of the Labo phase. So we'll see how that works. But they also have Edison and Lilith with them, so they may have a remote control to be able to turn it off and turn it back on again. And again, we don't know where Stussy is. I would like to know where Stussy is. Kaku's still trapped in the bubble. I don't particularly think Mars is going to care about trying to spare him, so we'll see what happens there. But that's what I have for this. I thank you for watching. I gotta get this edited so I can hopefully get it up before I go and have family dinner. So, bye!